Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are from around the world and across the web. This is the Quantum AMA live stream. Matt Case here, joined by my lovely and talented co-host, Matt Hatter. You can see how lovely he is with that awesome PFP. How are you, brother?
I am doing good, my man. I am doing good. The only reason why you can only see my PFP is because if it was a looks competition, we'd be winning
Oh,
hands
geez.
down. So to
Yeah.
save my blushes, I'm that
Uh-huh.
filter.
Yeah. Okay. How are things over
So
on
I
your
thought
side
I'd
of the
get the
pond?
first compliment in there very quickly.
That's very kind. How are things on your side of the pond? What have you been watching market-wise, news-wise, just things coming across your radar before we get into our AMA today with our guests from Arch Lending?
Things are good here, man. Things are good. We've got a little bit of sun shining, which is a rarity in the UK, so I'm enjoying that. I'm soaking that in for all it's worth. Been doing a lot of work today, so watching stuff in terms of the markets, not so much, except for, of course, you can't help but laugh at the increased tariff wars, the new 200+% that Trump has thrown back at China. But I'm taking most of my pleasure from the gifts that are now coming in thick and fast on X, because that's where the real entertainment lies, right? Because this is just going to keep going until one of them kind of breaks and says, all right, let's jump on a call and sort this out.
It's this tariff war has got everybody kind of, I think the uncertainty and the volatility is just kind of wearing people out, and I think there's just overall fatigue and exhaustion in the markets right now. That's kind of the sentiment I'm seeing. What about you?
I very much agree with you, and I wonder. And let me ask you: do you think it's deliberate? Because I know my response to that, and I won't put words in your mouth.
I think it is. I do. I do think it is deliberate, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think there's a little.
It's a little gamesmanship, right? A little play, a little posturing.
Yes.
A little gamesmanship, a little play, a little posturing. The big boys are standing in the yard, trying to bully everybody, and they're going to see which one of them is the biggest. And eventually, the P stream runs out, and they'll have to come together and have a conversation.
Well, speaking of conversations, we're about to have a great conversation here today with our friends
but I'm looking forward to
with our friends from Arch Lending. We're going to have a conversation. I think we do have a bit of a delay. That is weird. Are you good? All right.
I'll let you go.
Let's bring in our friends from Arch Lending. Himanshu Shahe is joining us all the way from Dubai. Correct? You're in Dubai right now? Is that where you're at, you said?
Yes, sir. I'm just here for a few days, where I grew up, but we're based in New York typically.
You're based in New York. Well, thanks for making time to hop on the AMA with us and talk about your products, your service, and your business. But first of all, let's just kind of get your thoughts. I mean, overall, we're talking tariffs, we're talking markets, we're talking Bitcoin. From your perspective right now, where do you see the market, and what kind of key indicators are you looking at, and what's on your radar right now?
Matt, I think we need to focus on the positives here. So yes, the greater market has taken a tumble, and there is a bunch of uncertainty. Rex is fluctuating wildly, but look at Bitcoin. It's at 85K today. It's been in this range for a while, and I think we're seeing a greater consolidation across some of the biggest players in the space. We're seeing more massive corporation coming into the space. And buying Bitcoin treasuries. I think we're seeing really the establishment of Bitcoin in the long term as a reserve asset. And I think we're going to see in the next few months and years, Bitcoin accelerate towards, we always talk about Bitcoin and gold. I think we're going to see Bitcoin accelerate towards the gold market cap, and then I think go way past it in the coming years. So I think we're seeing a very strong consolidation at this 80 to 90K range. And I think it's very positive for Bitcoin. Obviously, there's turmoil in the greater markets. I think it's by design, as Matt Hatter was saying earlier. The US, as you know, is a massive money printing machine, and there is some short-term pain to be had, which we're having at the moment. But I think it's for the greater good in the long run. I don't know how exactly this shakes out. I think a lot of the tariff numbers are just out of left field that they're meant to
Yeah.
shock rather than be there for for the long run. And I think
Mhm.
they're meant to be used as a point of negotiation rather than a point of finality.
Hatter?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think it is. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it is a point of negotiation. I mean, we could get into the weeds of this for at least an hour, and that's not why we're here to sit down and talk. But I always want Trump start to lose that negotiating power and begin to look weak. But that's a conversation for another time. Um, how are you guys finding it in terms of what you do? Before we get into what you are about, in terms of lending, in terms of people looking at services like yours, how do you guys find the current market in relation to how you guys perform, the interest that you see, the uptick perhaps, or downturn in people that come to your website, and conversion?
Yeah, there's actually a very detailed and exhaustive report by Alex Thorne and the Greater Galaxy Research Team. They came out on Monday, so I'd encourage everyone listening to go to take a look at that. Talks about the 10 biggest lenders in the space. We're on there, as are the likes of some of our competitors, Coinbase, Ledger, Tether. Interestingly, is a massive lender in the space, and that's all from their public filings. But I think what we're seeing is you would normally imagine them, but we've actually haven't seen that. We've seen very strong demand, almost inelastic with the price of Bitcoin over the last 3 months, where we've been growing consistently month over month. And we're seeing a lot of the bigger borrowers convert very quickly. Our systems, as I can speak to a bit later, are fully automated. So you don't actually have to speak to me to borrow. You can go start your process and be done within 5 minutes and have your loan funded within the hour.
Mm.
But people are using this opportunity as a point of borrowing safely, because a lot of people will choose to borrow when Bitcoin is a bit lower, so they know they're going to be very comfortable in terms of margin calls and liquidations if Bitcoin does ever drop, because it's already a bit lower than it should be in their opinion.
I've got a little bit of a delay here, so I'm sorry. I'm trying to work through
Am
that and see
I
if I can.
a bit delayed though?
Yeah, I think we've just got a bit of a delay, but that's okay. We're working through it. So
Hello?
I think yeah. Are you there? Did we lose you?
Hello.
Hello. Okay. No, you're good. I see you there. Oh no. Now we now we lost him. Hatter.
Hello?
Oh, there he's back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry
Manchu's
about
back.
that.
Manchu's
I
back.
think it might be a connection issue rather than a delay.
Where did you lose me?
I
Where did
Okay. Well, then let me ask you this though. When are we going to see, I guess, that killer app that's going to make Bitcoin lending and all of that super easy, super accessible for the masses? Is this what you guys are kind of bringing to the market right now? Is it you're bringing that UX, that UI that makes it really simple and easy? Because I think that's the thing that we're all kind of waiting for, and who's going to bring that to market?
Yeah, I think if you go and try experience, I mean, I'd encourage everyone to just take a look, just to see how simple it is. It,
Mm-hmm.
it really is 5 minutes. I'm not making that up, including KYC, sending your assets, etc. But in Bitcoin, and I think in the broader crypto ecosystem, we've seen a lot of very easy but not very comfortable to use experiences in DeFi, which are, very fast, but they trade off security, being able to speak to someone, and just like comfort. And then you see the other
Mm-hmm.
side, which is like people on the CeFi side are typically a lot slower. You have to go through a review process that takes a few days. What we're trying to build, and what we have built, is something that's in the middle, which brings the best of a great consumer UX to something that is still very usable and very easy. My background is I've built consumer products my entire
Mm-hmm.
career. I was early at Tinder. I was early at Bird Scooters. I also built products at Snapchat. And my co-founder did the same at Brex. And I think what we really want to bring here and what we have is this: you want to just one set it and forget it. There's not something you want to see every day, and it's something that it needs to be easy. You need to be able to get to speak to someone when there's an issue. And if you're on our website right now, on the bottom right, you'll see a little chat bubble. Send us a message. We'll get back to you. I'll get back to you right now when we're on this conversation, or someone on the team will. It's very, very simple to speak to us. And I think that's really
Yeah.
something that crypto and Bitcoin as a part of it, I think is missing, where you can't really like have someone answer your questions. At the end of the day, these are people that are sending in their hard-earned assets that they've held for a long time. And the last thing they want is to set it into the ether and then not know where it is, what's going on. No one's there to answer questions. And I think that's something that more of this industry needs to adopt and make much easier to access. You shouldn't have to pay for a good customer service. That should be a given.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that.
Going after you, Matt.
Go ahead, Hatter. No, we're all trying to be polite. You go ahead first, Hatter.
We are. I was going to repeat the exact same sentence you said. I would agree. I think I've heard you say now in a couple of AMAs that I've listened to that you guys want to offer a white glove service, and that's very important. And I wonder, because I also heard you talk about safety, and we're going to get into that in terms of what it is that you guys do to make yourselves as safe as possible. Are you finding that, if we're going to go along this thought, are you finding that offering that white glove service, being communicative with people, making sure you're informing them about every step, is making you be able to drive the narrative of being safe better in a space that's typically considered unsafe? That, I suppose, is going to be the one key element that will set you apart from everybody else. And do you find that working closely with your clients, working closely with people, regardless of the amount of money that comes in, allows you to give them that safe experience that then encourages them to come back to you, perhaps encourages them to not just sit on 75% of the asset, but maybe 50 or 25%, and start to give you more as they realize these guys are the real deal. These guys are actually, treating me like they care about my funds, they care about my assets, and they want me to succeed.
How are you doing my work for me? I don't have to even say anything here. No, but I want to echo that, and I think it's something we demonstrate through all of our communications with our customers. Even if you're not a customer, you can speak to us at any point. You can book a call. We'll answer any questions. And really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to build here is something more akin to the private banking world, where you have a banker that takes care of you. When you have significant assets in the traditional world, stocks, bonds, real estate, etc. You go to the likes of UBS, JP Morgan Private Banking, and you onboard there, and there's someone taking care of you. And that level of comfort and satisfaction is what we have built here. And yeah, we have a great technology product that enables us to do that at scale. But we also have people that will be with you on the phone on a moment's notice to answer any questions. It doesn't matter if you're a customer or not, because at the end of the day, you have to know who you're working with to be able to trust them. Having said that, we do have some hard things in the product that do enable that. So we strictly do not reauthenticate assets above 100K. Anyone on request below that, we'll segregate them, and we'll show you the on-chain address, like the wallet where your collateral is held, and will demonstrably not move throughout the duration of your loan. We work with Anchorage Digital, which is the only federally chartered bank in the US that can custody. Nathan, the founder, is also an investor in us, and we found it to be a very good experience working with them, and people feel very comfortable knowing their assets are held in a safe manner. If you go back a few years, we've seen a big upheaval of the space, and a lot of lenders went under because of things like reapplication, duration mismatches, and other issues in their lending practices, which we're trying to solve here. And I think if you're lending for the long run, like if you're borrowing for anything other than leverage, our customers borrow to invest in real estate, to buy cars, big other purchases, engagement rings, big life events, medical bills, etc. Right? Like these people aren't going to borrow for 6 months or 12 months. They want to borrow for the long term. So we actually are the only lender that lets you borrow for 2 years on a fixed rate. You can always prepay with no penalty at any point. But at the end of 2 years, let's say you want to continue, you'll just roll that over to a new loan and you'll just keep that borrowing continued, which mimics something in the private banking world. It's a bit of a catchphrase, but it's buy, borrow, or die, where the idea is you never sell your assets. Your assets are your financial backing, and you always utilize them by borrowing against them to funnel any life purchases or any life events that you want to enable through your assets that you work so hard to build.
I'm just going through all the different.
Well, that delay is real killer. That was a fantastic response. Thank you. Go on, Matt, after you. I'm going to let you take the next segment so that we know that we're not on a delay and it's going to be you two speaking.
Okay, all right. Where are you finding the majority of your clients coming? What is the need or the when they're looking to take a loan out on? Is it predominantly businesses, or are you seeing more like individuals? What is the main thrust of it right now, would you say?
Yeah, great question, man. Our bread and butter is the I would say higher net worth individual. So our average loan size is somewhere in the
Okay.
six figures, just under 300,000. And that means that people are putting up about $500,000 in Bitcoin on average. However, we do have, Joe down the street that wants to borrow 10 grand. Our minimum loan size, depending on the state, is $1,000. So we do enable the smaller sizes, obviously. But we see a lot of interest from people that have been holding on their stack for a while, that are continuously adding to it. People all over America. And they're borrowing, as I mentioned, to invest in real world use cases. So they're mostly borrowing dollars, not stable coins. And they're borrowing for the long run. Our average loan is well over 12 months. On the flip side, we do have a number of businesses that borrow from us too. So we have everything from smaller miners, hedge funds, venture funds, energy companies. We have people that own solar businesses, irrigation businesses, all kinds of businesses really that borrow from us. And
Okay.
then we also have multiple publicly traded companies that are doing the Bitcoin treasury strategy that borrow from us, typically to buy more Bitcoin.
There's something here that I've got up on the screen here. Crypto-backed loan. Unlock the power of your crypto through secure and hassle-free loans. Preserve your crypto for growth. Avoid taxes. I think that's two words right there that are going to attract a lot of people's eyes. Can you walk us through that part, avoid taxes? Because I think we all want to know, how do we do that?
Absolutely. So a few key things to note. When you sell your asset in the US, and I'll speak to US tax regimes because every country is different. If you're in the UAE, actually, you don't have any taxes on a sale of crypto. But let's say you're in the US, you sell your crypto. If you've held it for less than a year, you pay 40% in tax. If you've held it for more than a year, you pay 15% in tax on that. But more importantly, you lose out on future appreciation. If this is an asset that you think is going to grow sustainably, you actually want to hold on to it, right? So you're missing out on the price appreciation. You're paying a penalty to sell it, and you're converting it into cash or fiat, which is not growing, right? So that's really what we're enabling is you're getting an asset that's stable, that's you can use, and that isn't growing, but your backing is something that is growing continuously, and you can continuously borrow against it. In fact, as the price of Bitcoin rises, within 2 clicks in the dashboard, you can actually go and upsize your loan without adding any more collateral. So avoiding taxes is a big avoiding paying taxes on a sale and using your Bitcoin is a big reason why people use this. Because at the end of the day, you can stack as much Bitcoin as you want, but you still have to use it in the real world, right?
Yeah. I know we wanted to get into security, and I see there's as I scroll down here, there's a whole portion on your site. Walk us through the security. I know Hatter had some questions about security as well, and I'll let him take that part, and you can maybe address some of the security concerns.
Yeah, thank you. Walk me through it first. Walk me through the security, because as I said, I know that you guys are very hands-on. It is white glove service, regardless of how much you've put in. You've already said you're on hand to answer any questions, but just talk me through what other extra steps you're taking in an unsafe space to make sure everyone is safe. I know the rehypothecation is something that you've already mentioned, but what about the cold storage? Who are you partnered with, and what extra measures do you take that other people don't, that really set you apart?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start from the partnership and then go below. So we partner with Anchorage, which is a federally chartered bank. They're chartered by the OCC, and they custody Bitcoin. So they also work with some of the biggest players in the space, famously BlackRock, Cantor Fitzgerald, many sovereigns, etc. So we hold all assets there. Assets above loans of 100K can be segregated, as I mentioned earlier, and we'll share the address with you so you know demonstrably that your assets are not being rehypothecated or moved at all during the duration of the loan. You're signing a real world contract which very clearly states what we can and can't do with your collateral, and it clearly states that we cannot rehypothecate. So I do harp on the rehypothecation a lot because I do think it's a key component that other lenders sometimes miss out on because they'll like take your assets, lend them out further to get a few extra percentage points of yield. But I think that's not a sustainable approach for the long run, especially in times of market drawdown. Um, Now, another point that's different about us is how we raise capital. So a lot of lenders will raise capital by taking out retail capital on one side that's used as deposits and then lending that out to the borrowers to fund loans. That's it's great in times when markets are up, terrible when in times when markets are down and the depositors want to get their assets out because then you enter a situation of duration mismatches and you actually have to call the loan on the borrower and end that loan. We don't have the ability to do that. And the reason
Oh,
Did he drop out?
oh no! What happened?
We lost him.
Yeah,
We'll
he
wait for him
just
to
dropped
come
down.
back. I tell you what, while we're waiting for him to come back and continue explaining, I find this fascinating. I find it
Yeah.
amazing that we are moving towards a world where, crypto and Bitcoin is obviously the front runner for this, and we know because Quantum Expeditions, who are the sponsors of this particular AMA, this particular live stream, they are always saying, and Marty Greenspan is saying very loudly that Bitcoin is going to be the front runner. This is their time. This is their run. And we're seeing a real serious move into using crypto as a serious a serious option for people that have a lot of crypto, that have a lot of wealth, that they might not necessarily know what to do with. And as we say,
Right.
the rich people can borrow against their asset in order to get richer, and that's how they continue to increase their wealth. I think it's fascinating that finally Bitcoin is at that level. But sorry, that was us just filling the gap while you dropped out. So I'll let you continue explaining what you were saying.
All right. Yeah. So I'll finish out on that thought, and then I'll address what you just said, Matt, as well. So as I was mentioning, we've raised a collateralized loan obligation facility. You've probably seen some memes on social media recently about people at Coachella. 60% of people who bought tickets for Coachella this
Yeah.
year use a loan program in the form of a buy now, pay later, and there were jokes about packaging them together in a CLO. But a CLO in the traditional sense just means packaging loans together into a fund, which can then be securitized, etc., in the future. So we've done that on our front. We have about 200 million in that right now. And what that means is our capital goes a lot longer than the 2-year terms that we offer. So we never have duration mismatches. We have very strict requirements on that capital on how collateral is stored, on the fact that we cannot rehypothecate collateral. We can't even move it until a covenant is broken on the loan. So there is a safety of not just us, but also other institutions involved here, like Galaxy, which is the issuer of our facility, Anchorage, which is the trustee, and a few others. Um, so yeah, just to sum it up, no reapplication, segregated assets for most larger borrowers. The fact that we have long-term capital and we actually lend that to you for a longer duration and cannot call your capital level, which means that you can borrow from us knowing that you're going to be safe and you can use it for your real world use case without worrying about having to pay it back or manage it on. We also work with all of our borrowers and meeting margin calls and any liquidation events. Our goal is never to liquidate someone. Obviously, there are unfortunate situations when we have to.
Yeah.
But the goal really is to make sure that you can use your Bitcoin as a form of liquidity as efficiently as possible.
I see we got Freddie joining us now. Freddie's on the Arch team as well. Why don't you say hello, give us a mic check, introduce yourself, and tell us what you're doing there at Arch.
Hey, how's it going? Great to be here. Yeah, my name's Freddie. I kind of run client services here at Arch. So if you, for example, book a call or take a loan out and have questions, generally you'll be interacting with me. So yeah, excited to be here and happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I see we do have one that just came in, so let me grab that comment here. And let's see. Question from what about ETH or other cryptos for loans? Probably a good question. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. So we lend against Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. We actually have a very interesting product against Solana coming out at the moment, where we'll be lending at a lower interest rate. We'll be announcing this very soon. But yeah, at the moment it's Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana. I will say a lot of our demand, and I think really where we've shined is the Bitcoiner community. But yes, we do have a number of borrowers across both ETH and Solana.
Okay. And does the interest rate vary from the various cryptos, or is it the same interest rate on the loan no matter what you're?
The interest rate is the same. So if you do see other lenders where interest rates vary or interest rates vary by LTV, it's often because they're actually rehypothecating your assets, which is why if you take a lower LTV, they can go make more on the remainder that they have as a buffer. We don't do that, right? So our rates are flat across all assets. What does change is the LTV. So we view Bitcoin as more pristine collateral than say ETH and Solana. So Bitcoin has a higher start LTV than ETH and Solana.
Okay, so there is some discrepancy a little bit between the change you could say.
Yeah, like between the loan to value, so how much you can borrow, but the cost is going to be the exact same across all of them.
Right on. Where do you guys see yourselves fitting into the landscape of the Bitcoin lending world? Because it seems like this is going to be the big narrative for the remainder of 2025. The talk of let me just get your thoughts on where you think the big banks might come in on Bitcoin lending. Folks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America. Yep. We've heard talk about them and issuing stable coins as well, and just that whole role of the stablecoin legislation and the big banks coming into Bitcoin lending. And where do you guys see yourselves fitting into that?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that credit as a concept of this asset class, and I'll refer just to Bitcoin, is still 1% of the net asset value. And this number in real estate, stocks, etc., is 50% or higher. So we're still very much in the early innings of what this industry can be. And I think we need more players. In America today, there's very few players that touch retail or individuals in general. And I think we need more. And it's not competition, we just need more options. So I see this industry growing quite significantly across the players, but also when you speak to the banks, right? So banks are now getting more comfortable with doing more than just like holding assets because now they can on custody. But now that they can hold assets, they also want to offer services alongside custody, right? So, I mean, look, we've been speaking to all the banks. There is one major one that we're working with, and hopefully we'll have something to announce at some point this year on the custody front. There are banks doing stable coins. There are other yield-bearing stable coins, and a lot of them are looking for pristine books of business to use as backing assets. And I'll preview maybe there's something happening there with us as well. But yeah, there's a lot going on, and I think we will see banks come into the space. It is important to note that this is not something trivial to build, and banks historically have not been known to have the best tech. So I'll ballpark it. If you're a Bank of America, you want to build this, it'll take you 2 years to build, plus testing, etc. And especially doing it properly with automated margin calls liquidations, automated management of your loan book reporting, etc. There's a lot that goes on. It's like spinning up a whole new desk at the bank, right? So that takes time. And I think what a lot of these people are doing now is they're looking to partner with players like us to offer this in some capacity to their customers. So we have recently partnered with a company called On-Ramp Bitcoin. We have a number of other partnerships coming on in the next few weeks as well with companies that are exchanges, the custodians, and also with a bank that I mentioned. where they want to offer lending to their clients. They don't have the expertise or the know-how to do it, but they may have the custody or something else that enables them to have that client base that now is looking for this ancillary product.
The thing that made me think of something, a question, and Hatter, go ahead and jump in here, time, because I feel like I'm kind of hogging the mic, but I do have another question because this is a really great, thought-provoking conversation. So, is there a point where maybe like smaller regional banks, even throughout the U.S. or maybe even Europe, might white label something that you're doing and put it under their banner? Is that something?
Yeah, for sure.
That is a possibility.
And those conversations. Yeah, in fact, like those conversations are already happening. People are looking to offer this. I think they have to start with the first step first, which is custody. And custody is something that a lot of banks are looking to offer now, and not just the bigger ones, as you mentioned, the regional banks, the credit unions, etc., that have a tight knit, highly sticky client base. And as they offer custody, they naturally will look to offer other assets, other products here. And the first one that comes to mind there is lending, right? If you have assets, you don't want them to sit idle. You want to either lend them out to get yield, or you want to borrow against them to get dollars.
Yeah.
I do have a question about that interest rate, 14%. Some people,
Yep.
If we address the elephant in the room, are going to look at that and go, "Wolf, that's way too high," and everybody wants to
Yep.
get those interest rates down as much as possible. What are you actively doing that lets people know that interest rate is going to come down? And do you have a sweet spot figure in mind, a percentage that you are wanting to hit and you see as a personal milestone for the company to hit? And when it does, you get to really scream about it.
Yeah, I think the goal for us is 10%, and I see us getting there. And I don't want to put a number on it, but it could be a year, it could be two. I don't think it's more than two. And I'll kind of give you my thought process and how that number shakes out. So if you look at Bitcoin as a collateral type, it's still very, very new. And the biggest backers and capital in the space are the big investment banks. They have not historically participated in the space. So the way they price something like this to lend to today is a bit higher than they would price mortgages or stocks or something else, right? Having said that, if you go borrow against your stocks at Schwab or somewhere else today, you're paying a similar interest rate. If you get a personal loan, you're actually paying higher. Mortgages are around 7% today, and they're the backstop of the U.S. government. Here, as they understand that this is pristine collateral that trades 24/7, 365, it's over collateralized with liquid collateral. So there's really no way for a lending book here to have a loss. As that continues to happen, the rates will come down. For us, concretely, what we're doing is we have this CLO facility. We're announcing very soon that we've tokenized it, and we have a senior tranche that is a much cheaper interest rate that investment banks and yield-bearing stablecoins and others are coming and buying up pieces of. That rate is going to be lower than the target that I just mentioned. And that lets us get down much more significantly towards this 10% target. So I think we'll be dropping our headline rate very, very soon, probably in the next few weeks, by at least a percentage point, and then continuously throughout the rest of the year. And then I think you can expect to, from us or someone else, I think you'll definitely see it from us in the next 2 years. And just to give you context, even the biggest players that have their own balance sheet, like Cantor Fitzgerald, are lending out at 11%. So it's not like this is not the market. But for individuals, it is obviously a bit harder to lend at that low rate versus for like a big institution, which Cantor would lend to.
And just to add to that as well, if anyone's interested in just more commentary over the rates and like why they are where they are, where we think they'll go, you can head to our website at the top and there's a blog post. So that came out last week. You just need to go to the top resources blog and then you'll see the article there. That also just addresses why 14% might not necessarily actually be so high if you contextualize it. Primarily one of the reasons there is Bitcoin CAGR is, depending on how you calculate it, of like a 5-year or 3-year or 10-year, it's around 60%. So, if the underlying asset which you're borrowing against is appreciating by 65% a year, and you're paying 14% to finance against it, in that context, it doesn't really seem so high. But yeah, I would echo what Himanshu said about the rates coming down over the next couple of years.
Great, thank you. And I think with things like this, as long as you can back it up with math and you have coherent thoughts that you can give people, people are going to be way more accepting, right? And you already have a timeline in place, 2 years. You don't want to stick to anything too specific, but saying that we're going to think gives people peace of mind as well. Freddie, let me focus on you for a second, if I may. You're available to speak to people. When somebody books a call, they speak to you. What is at the forefront of your mind when you're speaking to anybody that comes to you and is talking about taking out a loan, regardless of the amount that they're putting in? We know it's white glove service. Is there something, and you don't want to give all away, the secret sauce away completely, but is there one or two things, or are there one or two things that you want to make sure that every single client gets from you, gets from Arch Lending, that no one else is giving? And what are those two things?
Sure, it's a good question. I think generally how the calls work is I normally hand it over to the the person who's calling, and most of the time they have one or two questions. Generally, they've gone through the website, familiarized themselves with the process, and they have one or two things they're unsure of, or scenarios they're unsure of. They have some questions they want to clarify. So I'll handle those first, and then after that, you kind of get a sense of their use case, who they are, what they're thinking of doing, and then if there's any kind of gaps in their knowledge or understanding of the product, I'll just flag those out. Generally, I would say the two things that come up most commonly, which I think you would have already covered, is one, just how do we hold the underlying asset? How do we hold the Bitcoin? Where's it stored? Which Himanshu went over, and particularly people are pretty. They want to go over that we definitely don't rehypothecate the asset. That's really key to all of our users, and one of our key unique selling points versus other providers. So that would be the first thing. And then generally people assume that the process is going to be a little bit more cumbersome than it actually is. Once you go through the process, it literally takes 10 minutes. Everyone afterwards is like, it's the best fintech product they've ever used. They're just shocked that banks don't function like that, and they're really impressed with the UI UX and experience they have with the app. So it's kind of just pushing them to sign up, create an account, just try it out, and they're always pleasantly surprised how easy the process is.
Guys, I just want to interject real quick.
Please do.
I need to jump off. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
But thank you so much for having me. Freddie will take over, and he speaks to everyone, so I think he's a very good authority to speak to any other questions here. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Himanshu. Appreciate you coming through, man. Yeah,
great speaking to you. Take care. Yeah, Freddie, I was just going to have one more follow-up question for you, which is what kind of increase borrowing are you seeing based on the first interaction with you? I don't know if you have those stats, but I'd love to know how many people dip their toe into the water, realize it's not cold, it's a nice temperature, they enjoy the process, it's quick as you said, it's secure as you guys have mentioned, and then increase how much they borrow from you.
Yeah, it's actually a great question. Really glad you brought this up. So it's one of the stats that we're probably proudest of is I think as of when I last checked, 2/3 of our borrowers have borrowed from us more than once. So
wow.
I think that speaks for itself. Once people have taken out one loan, you can look at our Trustpilot as well. It's 98% 5-star reviews. I think we have 1 or 2 4-star reviews, and generally that's because people are they're saying the rate's slightly too high right now, which we've kind of covered. But it's overwhelmingly positive feedback, and 2/3 of people borrow more than once. So that'd be the first thing. I think also a lot of people, I've spoken to most of our clients, especially probably on the larger size, but the average loan size with us is around 300K. That being said, we have people as small as $1,000. We have people as large as 20 million. So we have the whole spectrum. And I would say, once you're borrowing kind of more than 7 figures, most people want to just put a face to the company, just say they have a couple of questions at that size, which is perfectly normal. But we've definitely processed multi-million-dollar loans, and people have literally just signed up, gone through the process, and taken a loan without having to interact with anyone. So yeah, the system's designed to just people be able to go and use it and not have to talk to anyone if they don't want to. However, we're always on hand, always accessible if people do have questions, or if they just want to have some sort of touch point with the company to make themselves a bit more comfortable.
Hey, Freddie, let me ask you this. This is kind of like the second round for some of us in the market when it comes to Bitcoin lending, and we've seen this kind of blow up in our face before, and there's a lot of people that probably have a lot of PTSD around this, and I don't want to mention the companies. We already know those companies, but what has been that getting folks over the hurdle? Have you seen any pushback? Are you trying to get folks over that hurdle in the education process of what is different this time with Bitcoin lending than versus some of these catastrophes that happened in the past? And how do you help educate those clients and onboard them in this new Bitcoin lending world that we're moving into?
Sure, yeah. We actually have a ton of those clients who have previously used those services. Some of them lost money in those proceedings. Some of them got their assets off before. But all of those people are, you would think that they'd be more hesitant, which they are to an extent. But they also really recognize the value add of like how useful this product is. So they do want to do it again. And then generally after you speak to them and run them through the key points, which I can go over in a second again, they're comfortable. So we have a ton of borrowers who were previously in or around those previous issues and use us very, very happily now. And the key point here is we're not really like the same company as say BlockFi, Celsius or whoever. We're just a loan servicing company, really. So those companies were basically running unregulated commercial banking models where they take in cheap deposits and then lend them out the other side. That opens them up to credit risk or duration risk. Just as your bank will, if you put $1,000 at the bank, they take that $1,000 and they lend it out, and they often lever on that as well. They have the Fed as a backstop, and they have all these sort of reserve ratios and reporting, and they're immensely regulated, et cetera, et cetera. The previous lenders weren't really any of those things. So we're really a totally different business model. We've been over how the CLO works. There's no rehypothecation, and that CLO basically means there's no credit or duration risk because we just stick the asset at Anchorage, draw on the facility, and pass the dollars out. Our job as a company is to maintain the tech platform, have service the clients, and just make sure that loan's serviced properly. So yeah, we don't need like an extensive risk desk, or we don't employ any traders or anything like that, for instance. Okay. So our business model is totally different to those others.
Well, that's refreshing. that's very good.
Exactly.
Freddie, how long before you start looking toward not being financial advisors per se, but certainly having conversations in which you advise people on where they might place their money if they borrow from you at the moment to continue to grow their wealth? Do you plan as a company to start looking at setting out plans for people that may have bought crypto very early on? As you expand the crypto that you begin to support, they might have bought it years ago. They don't really have a background in finance. They don't really know what to do with the money, but they know they want to grow it. This is an option in which they can still hold on to the asset and grow wealth. Will you guys do that? Will you start to offer that support? Is that an area that you're going into?
Yeah, I think I can answer this in like twofold. First is that the vision of the company is really to cater to these high net worths or the people who have made their wealth in alternative assets. That was one of the kind of founding visions of the company, stemming from both the founders' backgrounds. So we do want to provide, these people are traditionally underbanked, right? You can't go to your private bank. Typically, this is how it will work. You'll go to your private bank and say, here's all my stuff. I have a load of equity in this company. I've got a load of Bitcoin. I've got some property. On paper, I'm very rich. I want you to give me a credit line against it. I need all these sorts of niche financial services. So like traditionally in the typical world, like Elon Musk has a load of these private bank, or every rich person in the US will have a private banking relationship, and they'll have all these bespoke solutions. So we definitely want to have that for more people who made their wealth in new age tech companies or crypto. That was the founding vision of the company. So I think at some point we'll definitely be coming out with other financial products that services these people. We'll have like buy sell. We'll have the ability to hold your Bitcoin here. We'll have maybe a card where you can borrow against your Bitcoin and spend in dollars more easily. The second thing is, even though I'm in the US now, I'm from the UK. The US has more like restrictions over like literally giving financial advice. So we can offer financial products, but we can't give financial advice on what people should do. That's a slightly separate business. So I don't know if we'll ever be in the kind of arena of definitively giving advice, but I think we'll have a slew of products available for these people to use and access.
You know what I like to say, Freddie, is we don't give financial advice, but we make some pretty solid life suggestions. That's what we're in the business of doing. Just some life suggestions for you to consider, not financial advice.
To be clear, categorically, nothing we say is financial advice.
No.
To be clear about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just some life suggestions for folks to consider.
Yeah.
You do you. Yeah, well, we're getting close here to the top of the hour, so we'll get ready to kind of land the plane and wrap this thing up. How about a final call to action, Freddie, for folks who are watching? We've got over close to 7,000 people on the stream right now, over 4 different platforms. We're still trying to figure out this whole new streaming thing that we're doing at Quantum, and we're excited that you got to be a part of this with us today as we talk about the exciting world of Bitcoin lending. So give us a call to action. Let folks know what they can do, where they should go, and how they can get involved to secure their financial future.
Sure, yeah. I would firstly say thank you very much for having us on. Really appreciate it. And then I just wrap up by saying 2 things. Firstly is if you kind of went back 100 years and you were like, okay, what you have all this money, like what do you do with it? What assets do you buy? Maybe you're buying Manhattan real estate. Let's say you own a load of Manhattan real estate in 1920. If you were at that point in time, and you wanted to maintain your wealth to today, the smartest thing you could possibly done is do everything you can to not sell that piece of Manhattan real estate, borrow against it, and just keep rolling over the debt. You save in what's scarce and you spend in what's not scarce or what's infinite. Right now, many people, although not financial advice, many people would say, okay, that's saving Bitcoin, spend in dollars. Fiat's infinite, Bitcoin's scarce. So if you want to, preserve your wealth into the future, from that perspective, you'd be wanting to save in Bitcoin and then spend in dollars. That's the financial product that we fundamentally offer. So even if you're not, at that point today where you need to take a loan right now, I would still go to our website, sign up, and just have a look at the platform, the product, how it works, familiarize yourself with the process, because over the next, I would say 5-10 years, this will be, one of the key pillars of finance in general is using Bitcoin to finance against. Whether the future iterations will be, cross-collateralized with real estate or whatever that may be. This is kind of the first inning. So I would, go to our website, sign up, take a look, and then, of course, you can always put a call if you have further questions or want to dig into anything in particular. So
Yeah, I'm on the website. We've been sharing it through the course of the live stream, and I love that. Just as even for folks who have a small amount of crypto, who might have just gotten into the game, even $1,000, you can get a loan and you can get involved and be a part of the future of finance. Right there, Hatter, over to you, man. You want to close out any comments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're moving into, as I already said, a fascinating world where crypto and Bitcoin in particular is being taken very serious. And had this been around a few years ago, I know you've been around a while, but when crypto was the Wild West, people should have been looking at you guys to grow their wealth rather than chasing those gains that were never going to be sustainable. And I think an approach that you guys are taking, where it's individual, it is white glove, as we've said, it's high level service that you want to offer, it's secure, and the lack of rehypothecation is that's a real strength for what you guys are doing, and that means that people can feel a lot more secure in taking out this loan and really starting to look at, like you say, getting some of that real estate. For example, if you've got enough Bitcoin, if you hold enough, you can go out, you can buy a house, or you can buy a car, or you can buy something else that you want to invest in that's tangible, that's real world, knowing that your crypto is still secure and you can watch it appreciate there also. So I think this is fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to watching you guys grow. And I'd love to have you back again, because I have 100,000 more questions that I'd like to ask. We don't have the time for it, but I absolutely want to get you guys back and ask those questions at some point further down the line.
For sure. Yeah, no, really appreciate the time again. And yeah, we'd love to come back another time.
Well, thank you so much again for making the time, Frankie. The website is up there, Arch Lending. We've got it highlighted, archlending.com, crypto loans. If I had any crypto, I lost all mine in a boating accident, but if I had any, I would be looking at this as a way to secure my financial future. So not financial advice, as we say, but again, solid life suggestion. On that note, we will say thank you to our friends at Arch Lending. Thank you, Hatter, for being a great co-host as always. And then we will invite you to join us tomorrow on X for a Spaces event with the CEO of Quantum Expeditions, or the CFO of Quantum Expeditions, the CEO of Quantum Economics, Madi Greenspan, on the big Twitter space. We talk everything. We'll talk Bitcoin lending. We'll talk DeFi, DePIN, anything that's on the blockchain. If it can be tokenized, we're talking about it, Hatter. So that happens tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 out East, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
All right. So until then,
Eastern. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. You get some rest. Freddie, thank you so much. Stay safe, stack sats, and hodl.